Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Aparuta de sangamatassa tawara esodavanta bamunchantu sadang. So today is the full moon of February, and this is one of the celebratory days, big days in the Theravada tradition called Magha Puja. So I'll give you the history of this day. Since this is celebrating a historical event. So bear with me as I read this. The Magha Puja Day is the annual celebration of the Buddhist held on the full moon day of the third lunar month, which is February. In the Buddhist countries, in Thailand, the ceremony of Magha Puja is performed to emphasize the significance of the Magha month. So this is actually the name of this period called Magha. It was the period in which the Buddha constituted the main code of his instructions and which is universally regarded as the heart of Buddhist teachings. The historical events preceding this period must be reviewed briefly. The Buddha delivered his first discourse to the five ascetics, namely Anya Kondanya, Vapa, Bhaddiya, Mahanama, and Asati, who, when they heard the Enlightened One, were ordained, becoming the five noble disciples. The Buddha then made a retreat at Isipatana in the deer park near Benares. And there he ordained Yasa, the son of an influential family, who had approached the Buddha and had received instructions on the discourse concerning the fivefold principles, namely generosity, morality, happy life, renunciation, and the benefits of ordination. And he took as his refuge the Buddha and the Dhamma and the Sangha. Thus he entered into the monastic life. The order now increased to 60 in number. The Buddha urged the monks to journey in different directions and places to disseminate the law of the truth. Hence the first Buddhist mission began, and the teaching of the Awakened One has since spread to many people in many lands. The Buddha himself went to preach at Rajagaha, the capital at Magadha state, and there 3 ascetics regarded as great teachers became Buddhist monks together with their disciples, the reported number being 1,000. Bimbisara, the king of that state, became a Buddhist, taking the triple gem as his spiritual guide and supporting the Buddha's mission. And the king gave as a residence for the Buddha and his order a quiet and suitable place called Velawana Vihara, translated as the bamboo grove. And this was the first Buddhist temple. Here many thousands of the citizens became Buddhists, and during the period when the Buddha was staying in Velawana Vihara, a certain incident took place on the full moon day of the third lunar month. The bhikkhus, about 1,250 in number, who had been ordained by the Buddha himself and since then engaged in missionary activities, returned without prior notice to the great teacher to question him further about his teaching. Thus took place the great assembly of all the holy ones at Velawana Vihara, where Buddha delivered the discourse on the main code of his teaching, which can be summarized as thus. So this is translation of what they call the Ovada Patimokkha. And so this is what he taught 1,250 arahants. Patience, that is to say forbearance, is considered the superior endeavor. All the Buddhas speak of Nibbana as the highest goal. A bhikkhu who still does harm and violence to others is not a recluse at all. Do no evil, do whatever is good, purify the mind. This is the teaching of the Buddhas. Non-abuse, harmlessness, restraint through the disciplinary code. This is the teaching of all the Buddhas. So that they call the Ovada Patimokkha. So I've often contemplated if you've got 1,000, there's supposed to be, usually it's called, in this summary, they call it bhikkhus, but usually they're referred to as all arahants, perfectly enlightened ones, 1,250 arahants, assembled without any prior arrangements. There are no emails or faxes or anything like telephones. Psychic abilities. But anyway, and then the Buddha delivered this Ovada Patimokkha, which is a very simple teaching. Patience is the greatest endeavor. So, like forbearance. And as you know, in this life, it's the development of patience, being able to endure the negative states, the conditioned realm. Usually, if we don't have patience, then we can't really get anywhere. We just end up running around trying to, as soon as we feel impatient, we move on to something else. So this was what Ajahn Chah encouraged me in the first year that I was with him. And I said, develop patience, kanti barami, and endurance. And so this was actually very good advice, because I wasn't very patient. I'm not from a society that encourages patience with the instant. We want instant results. Don't want to have to wait very long. And so American society is the fast food culture, instant coffee and everything. And now we've got computers and everything where we just press buttons and we can generally, hopefully, get what we want as quickly as possible. Having to wait for it is unbearable. And when our computers break down, we go into a kind of rage. This was not a problem at the time of the Buddha, because there were no computers. But just contemplate the forbearance, patience, just being patient with yourself. Mainly, that's the where we need to really develop that sense of patient endurance with our own thoughts, memories, habits. And patience is willing, it's a kind of surrender, a willing to allow something, to bear with something that we don't like or don't want. You don't need patience when you're happy, do you? And everything is just wonderful. But patience is necessary for the other side of life, the unpleasant, the unwanted, the painful, the negative, the changing world that we experience. So Kanti Barami, or patient endurance, is the great endeavor. And see, that's one of the important baramis to develop in the holy life, is being patient. If you aren't patient, you won't be able to understand. You can develop a kind of intellectual grasp, and that's about the best you can hope for, which is still not developing patience. Endurance, because the mind will say, I can't bear it, I can't stand it, it's too much. And when we have any discomfort, pain, or unpleasant mental state, or difficult, complicated, unwanted situation, and say, it's too much, can't stand it, but we can. I mean, this is the thing, the mind will say one thing, but we can't trust that, because it has its limitation. It's a habit, kind of habit we've developed. We have our pain threshold or our endurance threshold at a certain level, and then we think, oh, this is too much for me, I can't stand it. And if we believe that, then we keep reinforcing that limitation. But most of us can stand much more than we think we can. So, I've determined never to believe what my mind says. My conditioned mind is conditioned. It's a habit formation. So it'll say all kinds of things that aren't true. So this really recognizing that what conditioning is, the views, the opinions, the sense of yourself, your abilities or lack of abilities, all of this is conditioned phenomena that we can be patient with, reflect on, not try to get rid of impatience, but the impatience, impulsiveness that we do experience, that's where the endurance is necessary. To endure through what we think we can't endure. And then Nibbana as the highest goal. So when we take the Vappacha, Upasampada, this is the whole endeavor is towards the realization of Nibbana. And this is the whole, this is at the end of the ceremony. Then I recite in Pali that the Nibbana is the goal of all this. There's not to become anything or attain anything, but to realize Nibbana. So the monastic form is a convention whose sole purpose, sole aim is for realization rather than for becoming anything. And therefore to develop the convention is limited, it's only a convention. So if you just, identify with that and fiddle around with the convention, you forget what it's pointing at. You end up looking at the finger, not at the moon. So the convention is like the finger, isn't it? It's pointing at Nibbana. So this is the even though highest goal is not quite right. In terms of language, because language is very dualistic. So If you've got highest and lowest, it always conveys sense of something above you, way above you, rather than here and now. So the highest goal of Nibbana isn't some distant state of, so high that we have to hope that we'll attain it or get there in some way, but the awakened state, the awareness itself, it's that direct, it's a very direct teaching, it's nothing more than awakeness in the present. So the highest goal is not something far away, it's immediate, here and now. Santitiko, akaliko, ehipasko, opanayiko, bhajatang, vetidapo vinuhi. Apparent here and now, timeless, encouraging investigation, leading onwards to be experienced individually by the wise. So don't, even say by the wise, you might think of yourself not being wise. On a personal level, I don't see any, wisdom as some kind of personal attainment. But wisdom isn't something that it isn't that any of you lack wisdom. The problem is your identity with ignorance. So this is why the emphasis is to break through that, to see through that, to no longer identify with ignorance. So it's not a matter of attaining wisdom, but of letting go, freeing yourself from ignorance. Then to do good, refrain from doing evil or bad things. This is good advice. We have to live in this society and on this planet as a form, as something that has to eat and sleep and survive in some way or another. So our presence on planet Earth, we can be very destructive creatures or greedy. We can see the kind of problems that modern life has created in terms of pollution and all kinds of complexities that come from ignorance and thinking that not having any kind of moral integrity, but just doing what you feel like or what's convenient or expedient, even just for your own ends, without consideration for the welfare of others or the society or the planet itself. So this to do good, refrain from doing bad things. This is about how to live in the world, on this planet, in the society, to use your body and speech for doing good, telling the truth, and to refrain from speaking on impulses of wanting to harm or deceive. Harmlessness, isn't it? Non-evil doing. Compassion, isn't it? We can develop compassion as our relationship to the suffering of the other creatures around us. Purifying the mind. So do good, refrain from doing evil, purify the mind. What does that mean? What does purifying the mind mean? And so, the word purify is how do we purify our minds? And what is purity? So this is a good reflection. What do we mean when we talk about purity? What is it? And it can be just some kind of abstract ideal, some kind of rare state or something with no taints, no stains, no flaws. But purity, say, then isn't something we're lacking. Purity is something we have all the time. It's not something that you lack or you've lost, but it's the attachment to impurity that is the problem. So in pointing to impurity, this is like ignorance, avijja, and identifying with all the thoughts, emotions, conditions that come out of ignorance, which is like the ego, the self, the habit tendencies, the physical body itself, its energies, so forth. If we identify and cling to these conditions, then we create ourselves as flawed creatures, as impure, as problems, as neurotics, as psychotics, as all kinds of different identities that we can assume out of this ignorance. Contemplating Sakya Ditti or personality, I can't see, how anyone could ever purify their personality. My personality there's nothing, no way to purify it. It is what it is. And it's, part of it, some of it's quite alright, some of it's not very good, but even the best parts are not, they're still limited, uncertain, unstable conditions. So to identify, cling to the memories, the thoughts, the emotional habits, the physical body itself, and try to purify all that, you'll never succeed, because the idea of polishing the brick, trying to make it into a mirror, no matter how many years you spend trying to polish a brick, it will never have that reflective purity of a mirror, because it's not meant to be. You can't, the conditioned realm, its very nature is dukkha, or imperfection. It's changing, it's dependent. And so in contemplating the way things are, we recognize it. I mean, we're not trying to convince ourselves of this, but to see this, to know this through insight, through investigation. I've never found a condition that is pure. Some are better than others, some are refined, some are coarse, whatever, but there's a kind of ongoing purity. They're all subject to change and to, inevitable cessation. So the aim for Nibbana then is to develop the awareness, which is the way to realize what purity is. It's reality, it's not something you ever lacked, ever lost in any way, no matter how bad you might have been. But but we forget, we delude ourselves through our conditioning, through our blindness. So then the Buddha saying, wake up, pay attention, observe, recognize the way it really is. So in the purity of awareness, then of course we have perspective on the conditioned world that we experience. Because in the purity of the conscious awareness is the still impurities, conditions arise and cease. So it's not, doesn't kind of destroy the conditioned realm, but it puts it in perspective to free us from identity, from attachment to it out of ignorance. So we can then how we relate to the conditioned world is through the loving kindness, compassion, sympathetic joy, equanimity, the Brahma Viharas. And it says non-harmlessness, the way we live, the whole emphasis of Buddhist monasticism is to be harmless. Isn't it that all these Vinaya rules and whatnot is about not harming, intentionally harming anything? Because we can, we're very, on the animal level of existence, survival of the fittest and greed, hatred, and delusion. Harming things is just it's what we have to do. We have to survive through survival and through following our instincts. But the awareness is transcending instinctual behavior, so that we're not even bound to instinct. I mean, we have perspective on it, on survival and fear and procreative drives and things like this. We still experience these, but from that position, from the awareness, then we no longer are lost or taken over or enslaved to those kind of drives. So sometimes when we think about enlightenment or nibbana or purifying the mind, we tend to it easily, because when we try to figure it out with thought, then of course we end up with it being very high state of almost extinction. We have to get rid of all the impurities. We have to, by destroying the impure, annihilating impurity, then we think we'll attain some kind of purity through annihilation. But that's the logic that comes from attachment to thinking, and it's very important to just see the limitation of thinking, because it is it's a dualistic function. And you start thinking, and you have good, then you have bad, you have right, you have wrong. One brings on the other. Day and night, male and female, on and on to the endless kind of words, concepts that we have, that we use, that are part of our thinking pattern. You get stuck into the thinking, into thought, and that's what we call a dualism. You create a division. You're dividing the experience into right and wrong, good and bad. So the thinking itself, we can be aware of thinking, free ourselves from enslavement to our thoughts, that awareness awakened attention, stillness, then that allows us to see the thinking process in its various dualistic forms. So purifying the mind isn't like me, Ajahn Sumedho, trying to purify my thoughts or my emotions or things like this, trying to get rid of anger and fear and trying to hold on as desperately to ideals such as love and compassion, and me as this person trying to endlessly kind of control everything. I become, a control freak. My whole emphasis is trying to hang on to what I approve of and like, and trying to get rid of what I don't, what I consider evil or bad. And that just creates even more, that life becomes even more difficult. The more we try to hold on to something and get rid of something, caught in a battle, a continuous unending war, internal struggling. So the conditions of modern life, modern politics, international problems, everything that's where most, human population tends to be stuck in that kind of warring state. And it comes from within us. Who can you blame? Say they're the cause. It's the ignorance, really. And we can see it within ourselves, the struggle, the fear, the anger, the resistance, the desire to control everything is from within. And that awareness is our ability to recognize this. That's not what we are. It is what it is. We're not even judging it, because once you start judging it, then you're going back into the dualistic position. That's a bad thought, or that's a evil thought, or weak. That's a weak, or that's a good one. That's the bad one. And we can, then we make judgments and evaluate ourselves accordingly to how good or bad we see ourselves. But in awareness, this isn't a judgmental thing. It's not discriminating. It's not saying what should or shouldn't be, or what's right or wrong. But it is discerning the conditions, the nature of conditionality. So what is it that can observe, that can recognize or realize impermanence? Is that impermanent? Can I claim that? On a personal level? If I start claiming it, then I'm back in the dualistic world again. I am the wise one, I am the pure one, or things like this. And it's learning to no longer feel a need to proclaim or identify or define yourself with anything at all, with any concept. But in this recognition or realizing of this natural state of awareness, and it's pure. If you want to describe it, because it isn't separative. It doesn't emphasize me and you. It doesn't prefer. Doesn't like or dislike. It's intelligent. It's pure. wisdom. So, but it's not some kind of personal quality that I've developed or attained or haven't. I know this is quite baffling for people because it's so against the whole cultural conditioning that we have. You know, it's like it's going against all the assumptions and beliefs and opinions and views that we hold from our culture, from our education, from rational thought, reasonableness, logic, all the things that in human terms we kind of hold up as attainments. So, like for the monastics, really see that the form, the convention itself, is to be used for relinquishing, for letting go. You know, it's not an attainment. It's not meant to put us on some kind of special privileged position. It's not meant to be an identity. You know, so that we're attached to our position or identity through the monastic convention. It's certainly easy to do, and it's quite, you know, out of ignorance we do that. But that's a misuse of the convention itself. Not meant for attachment, but for it's a pointer. It's a directional sign. But it's not, you know, pointing at itself. It's merely an expedient means to help us to give us that kind of emphasis. Keep directing your attention towards awareness, awakenness, rather than towards becoming and attaining, or trying to control or get rid of or manipulate conditions. So, we'll celebrate this with a circumambulation, say at 10 o'clock, meet in here, and this custom will circumambulate in the cloister due to the cold weather. We've got a cloister now to use, and this is the ceremony, but also, you know, it's our ceremonies, our chanting, all of this is, is for encouragement, for awareness, not for, it's not meant to convey some kind of special powers you get through doing it. But how do, like this convention of circumambulation is an act of, can be an act of devotion, of gratitude, of reflection. It's up to you how you want to hold this ceremony. You've got the choice whether you want to use it for awareness or just do it because everyone else is doing it, or dismiss it as a bunch of superstitious rubbish, it's up to you how you want to regard it. But personally I find, the conventions like ceremonies, chanting and that, they're quite beautiful in themselves if you use them with awareness. Beautiful actions in the world, forms to, and better than, thinking, spending the time sitting here, what a bunch of rubbish. And so if you sit in here while we're all walking, around 3 times, and then, what a bunch of rubbish. Ceremonies, rites and rituals, superstitions, the Buddha didn't teach that, then that isn't very, if you really look at that, that's not a very peaceful mental state, is it? Or, like we have relics on the shrine here, in that reliquary in the middle, Buddha relics. So some people say, how could they be Buddha relics? And Buddha relics everywhere. That was 2,547 years ago, and it's supposed to be one of these bones or what, you go into Sri Lanka, to Kandy, and the Temple of the Tooth, they got the Buddha's tooth there, and it's about that big.